Hello, I'm Shawn Kent Hayashi with Saucon Valley Cute and Cuddly Schnauzers. Grab a cup of tea or coffee and join me for an in-depth conversation today. Today is May 16th, 2024, and the information that I'm going to share in this video is information that I've already shared, frankly, several times on my channel. I'm sort of chuckling because I sat down to do this video and am realizing that Susan is downstairs cleaning, and so that means she's doing things like vacuuming and other things, which sometimes causes my dogs to alert that, hey, what's going on here? This is my YouTube channel. On the home page, you will find a section, Getting a Puppy or a Dog, from SVCC Schnauzers. In this playlist, you will find lots of great information about what happens when you get a puppy from me. I want to point out one of these is the SVCC Schnauzer Puppy Agreement, where I literally read the step-by-step parts of a puppy agreement for when you get a puppy from me. And I posted that one 9 months ago. Questions to ask yourself before adopting a new puppy. That one was posted a year ago. That video is really to help you think out the implications of what it will cost and everything you need to know before you actually take a dog into your family. And this video right here is a really important one. Will your dog outlive you? What to do to prepare. In this video today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this and tie some things together, make some connections. There's also information here about our waiting list and how to join our waiting list to get a puppy from us. I want to talk about my puppy agreement and my 10-year health guarantee. I want to dive into some very specific things in those agreements and explain what they mean. When someone gets a dog or a puppy from me, they get a copy of my 10-year genetic health guarantee. Let's dig into exactly what it means. It says our puppies are guaranteed to be in good health and free from visible signs of infection and contagious or communicable disease when purchased. If your puppy is diagnosed by a qualified veterinarian as having a life-threatening defect of certain congenital genetic origin before it is 10 years old, we will refund 100% of the purchase price, or we will pay for treatment up to the purchase price of your puppy at a veterinary clinic approved by us. In other words, me in this case, but it could also be my husband, Jim, if for some reason I'm not in the conversation. But we reserve the right to require a second opinion for a veterinarian of our choice and at our expense. If the dog is euthanized or in any way disposed of without a second opinion from the seller's, that would be me, veterinarian, the buyer waives all rights to a refund. Because we perform EMBARK DNA tests on all of our breeding parents, we know we are providing you with a dog that is not at risk of the most common genetic diseases in miniature schnauzers. So according to the EMBARK DNA tests, the known issues in miniature schnauzers are persistent Müllerian duct syndrome. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that second word right, but it's listed as PMDS. I've never had a dog with that, never seen a dog with that. The next one is, I'm going to spell it, MYOTONIA, and then the second word is CONGENITA. Again, never had a dog with that, never seen a dog with that. Not something I am concerned about in any of my breeding dogs. And then finally, the last one of the three that are traditional sort of Schnauzer issues, I'm going to spell it again, DEMYELINATING. And then the second word there, polyneuropathy. So Again, never seen any of these issues in my dogs. They don't have them. But I'll keep going now with my 10-year genetic health guarantee. This warranty is void in the event of an undetermined or inconclusive diagnosis. Diseases of likely environmental origin, likely to be caused by a suboptimal diet, chemicals, or trauma, are not covered. If your dog dies and you request a refund, you must have a necropsy, in other words, an autopsy, done on your dog, performed by a suitable, qualified veterinarian at your expense to determine the cause of death. Your purchase price will be refunded if the death was caused by a genetic problem or an illness which your puppy had at the time of purchase. For this reason, it is advisable to have your puppy checked by your veterinarian within 72 hours of purchasing your puppy from us. If there's an issue, you need to let us know right away. Again, we've not had puppies that have these kinds of issues. Next paragraph. For the long-term health of your puppy, we recommend supplementing the diet with New Vet Plus and Fortiflora. The minimal exposure to food additives. We also recommend minimizing exposure to certain veterinary drugs to the minimum dosage and frequency needed to safeguard your pet's health. We do not use flea and heartworm treatments ourselves, and we do not do the leptospirosis vaccine. I usually explain to people why I don't do those and why I think that they can cause problems, but ultimately it is up to you and your veterinarian if you choose to use those. Your puppy also has a lifetime rehoming guarantee with us. So if you have the inability to care for your puppy in the future, you agree to contact us if you are no longer able to care for the puppy. If you choose to return a dog because you are no longer able to care for that dog, we will be very grateful to you that you did so that we can care for the dog. But there is no refund due to you just by virtue of the fact that you've returned a dog to us. We breed schnauzers to grow families, not shelters. To date, I've never had anyone return a puppy to me for genetic reasons. In other words, no one's ever said this puppy has a life-threatening genetic issue which is causing me to want to use this agreement. My professional work that I have been doing for many years is as an executive coach. I focus on leadership development and building high-performing team cultures. This is a passion of mine. I love to set up cultures where both individual people can thrive, teams can thrive, and I love to do the same for my dogs. And as a result, I know how important it is to create what I refer to as key accountabilities. What are the expectations of someone in a specific role? What are the specific expectations of the job performance? And so I've translated all of that into my Schnauzer puppy business. So SVCC Toy Schnauzers has very clear agreements and written commitments about what we are responsible for and what owners of our puppies are responsible for. So when someone gets a dog from us, they get an agreement, a written agreement that explains what you can expect of us and what we expect of you. I have several videos on my YouTube channel here that explain in detail exactly what our agreements say. So what's included in these agreements. But for the purpose of this video, I want to tease out a couple of things that I want to just make sure we're on the same page about. The first part of the agreement goes over the date, the breeder, that would be me, and the buyer, addresses, email, phone numbers, how to contact each other. And then the buyer agrees to obtain from the seller a miniature Schnauzer that was, and there's description here. Now it describes the dog itself. And this dog is sold as a pet. In this context, pet refers to the dog sold as a family companion only. So this dog will not be bred. You agree to spay or neuter your pet at the appropriate age, somewhere between 9 to 12 months typically. And then the next section is all about payment terms. And just in general, I'll tell you, here's how it goes. A dog that is 8 weeks old, purchased from me, is $4,000. And it is $375 per week for our puppy prep school. A dog can be in our puppy prep school for up to 8 weeks. So in other words, if a dog goes through the full puppy prep school, that would be an additional $3,000. So for a dog at 16 weeks old that has been through our full puppy prep school program, that dog is $7,000. And sometimes we keep dogs here longer than that to become therapy dogs. And it depends on how the dog is progressing and how old, so forth. But again, it's $375 per week. Those dogs end up being probably in the $9,000 to $10,000 range when they are purchased from us, when they are at that point where they are just super well trained in everything. The next part of the agreement explains how payment can be made. So I use Zelle, or you can write me a check, and I give the specifics on how to pay for your dog. The next part here relates to our health guarantee when a dog has just been gotten from us. So the seller, me, certifies that upon receipt, the dog is in good health according to our veterinarian at Quakertown Vet Hospital. And I say, this dog has the following conditions. And so far for me, every time it has been none, because I have not ever been willing to sell a dog that I know has some sort of issue going on. So if a dog has a slight skin rash or something along those lines, I'm usually going to say, dog's going to stay here until that gets worked out, and not an issue. Again, I've never had a problem with that. Let's see. So I go on to explain the puppies will be or have been examined by a vet. And if I'm selling an older dog, I give the vet records and I provide the information to the vet so that you can get all of the vet records for your own veterinarian. So the next paragraph here says, the buyer agrees to have the puppy examined by your veterinarian at your expense within 3 days from the date you pick up the dog. If the veterinarian does not give the dog a clean bill of health, the buyer must notify the seller immediately. Seller reserves the right to have the dog re-examined by our veterinarian at our cost. Any condition that is minor or easily correctable, such as a new skin rash or an ear infection, is not covered. If the dog is found not to be in good health, the seller will resume possession if this is agreeable to the buyer. The seller does not accept responsibility for contagious diseases, worms, or giardia diagnosed after you have taken the puppy to your home. Heat stroke, exhaustion, dehydration, and other heat-related conditions are not covered in any way. This puppy must be an indoor dog living in your home as a family member and not ever kept outside as an outside-only dog. So in other words, you've got 3 days to have your veterinarian examine the dog. If you find anything wrong with the dog, you may return that dog to us within that period of time. I go on in the next part here to say, this is my advice based on my experience and the latest research. Please do not give your puppy flea and tick medications. Please do not get the rabies vaccine before your puppy is 6 months old with a small toy-sized dog. Do not buy dog food or treats from a grocery store. Please use much higher quality pet food. It has a huge impact on your dog's teeth, as well as the whole gut microbiome and the just everything about the way your dog performs. I have other videos on my channel that show you how we're feeding our dogs here now and some of the significant benefits that come from feeding your dog really good quality human grade food. So I go on here to say that all of these things that I've just mentioned are risk factors for problems in dogs. Your vet may advise differently. Please consider the options and make the best choices for your dog. So again, not all veterinarians agree on everything. Not all dog breeders agree on everything. Ultimately, once I have sold you your dog, it is your dog, and you can make your own decisions about these things that I'm mentioning right here in this portion. So I'm sharing my best advice, what research has led me to do, and what I personally do with my own dogs. But once you discuss it with your own veterinarian within that 3-day window to get clear on what you're doing, that's fine with me. All right, next section here. The buyer's responsibility. The buyer agrees to take good care of this dog, feed and house the dog properly indoors, maintain required shots, control the dog on a leash when in public and when off the premises of a dog's home. If the dog goes outside without a leash, the dog's outdoor area will be fenced in and secure, and acceptable provisions will be made to assure that the dog is safe anytime he or she is outdoors. The buyer agrees to give the dog proper physical exercise and emotional care. Now here in parentheses, most of my dogs, they can get really good exercise with a rousing game of fetch and play and running around in your backyard. Most of my dogs do not need to have super long walks, although some of them, the larger ones, could go for longer type walks. But my little ones, like my 5, 6, 7 pound ones, nope, they don't need that. All right. So if the dog is found to be allowed to run freely outdoors, unsupervised, running at large, creating a public nuisance, or found to be neglected, abused, or allowed to live in poor health or poor conditions, the seller has the right to repossession of this dog with no refund to the buyer. The death, injury, or loss of this dog due to theft, carelessness, recklessness, abuse, neglect, heat stroke, or accident will not entitle the buyer to any compensation from the seller. This dog is warranted for the purpose of being a companion, a pet, not for any other purpose or reason. No warranty is given to the buyer for any special purpose or function of this dog. This dog is not to be used in any illegal or immoral activities and is not to be used for any type of breeding program, dog farm, or other mass producing or money-making operation. Now, I'll step out of the agreement for just a moment. Some people do have an agreement with me to be a part of my guardian family. In other words, that we co-own the dog for breeding, and that's a different contract. And if you have that agreement with me, you know it. We know that we co-own those dogs. So back to this. In the event that the buyer is unable to keep this dog for any reason, the buyer agrees to provide the dog back to me, and I will either keep the dog or find the dog a new home. In the event of a rehome, the buyer must notify the seller. So in other words, if you are thinking about rehoming a dog that you've gotten from me, you need to notify me with the information, new name, address of the new owner. Buyer agrees not to sell this dog. So you're not able to sell a dog that you bought to me. You can't broker a dog that you bought from me. The buyer agrees to never put this dog in a shelter of any kind. and any changes to this contract must be in writing and signed by both parties. This contract is legal and may be enforced by legal means at the buyer's expense, and all disputes will be settled in Pennsylvania. It goes on here to talk about my YouTube channel and the importance of staying current on training your dog, keeping your dog's training updated. Provide some information about why training is so important, the YouTube channel playlists, and how to navigate some of that. Let's see. And then I say, now's the time to enjoy your puppy and learning together as a family how to care for your new family member. I go on to talk about this is the entire agreement between the parties and is valid and agreed to by all parties. All parties have read and understand and agreed to this contract in full, and the contract is legal. Anyway, we don't need to go into all those details, but the point is anybody who gets a puppy from me does have this information along with the 10-year genetic health guarantee. I have never been in a situation where I had to, needed to, was required to provide anyone with a genetic health refund for a dog. It just doesn't happen because I don't sell dogs that have the kind of genetic problems that would cause their demise. And I want to talk now specifically about two things in particular. Let's talk about the fact that dogs may need to have their teeth cleaned. This has more to do with the type of food that they're on and environmental things than it does specifically with something genetic. But teeth cleaning and the quality of a dog's teeth is going to be more environmentally determined. And I have friends, colleagues, people I know who feed their dogs such high quality food that their dogs don't have tartar. So one of my friends, Amy, the Go groomer, for example, she has for a long time fed her dogs farmer's dog, and before that she was feeding some other type of food. And she says because of the way she feeds her dogs, they don't have to have their teeth cleaned. But when somebody does need a teeth cleaning for a dog, there's a scale from like a 1 to, it's either 4 or 5, somewhere in there. And that 1 would be mild tartar, and that's very normal in a dog. And so tartar and tartar buildup in a dog would not be a genetic condition that would trigger my 10-year health guarantee. All right, now let's talk about the second thing. If a dog has a knee problem, if a dog has a patella problem, and the patella, the knee, is out of whack and the dog needs to have something done. In all my years of owning a dogs, I've never had a dog that had a patella or a knee problem, a leg problem that required surgery or anything like that due to a genetic problem. I have seen instances where dogs were on a sofa or on the back of a chair or something like that, and they fell off of the sofa, the porch, the chair, the something. And that caused either a knee issue, a broken leg. These are, again, charges that you would need to be aware of and prepared for if you choose to have a dog. But they are not genetic issues. They are lifestyle issues in those situations. If you have pet insurance, such as the Trupanion insurance that I have a $250 deductible. So if something like that were to happen, I would pay the $250. The dog would be treated up to whatever the percentage is that's agreed to by the Trupanion. Again, I'm just pointing out these are things that anyone who buys a dog, anyone who owns a dog needs to be prepared for, think about, consider. If you have insurance, if you have Trupanion insurance, for example, most of the coverage depending on what your deductible is. So my deductible with Trupanion is $250. And the way Trupanion insurance works is that you're charged that deductible one time, just one time. It's not a yearly deductible, it's a one-time deductible. So my $250 deductible, if my dog jumped off a porch or off the back of a sofa and hurt its knee, its patella, its leg, that would trigger the ability to use the Trupanion insurance. And in my case, there would be a $250 deductible, and the rest would, a big portion of it anyway, would be covered by Trupanion. Obviously, you would work through the details of that with whatever insurance company you've chosen for your own dog, if you've chosen to have insurance for your dog. But a dog breaking a leg or a dog having a problem in that way does not trigger my genetic health guarantee. All right, next, let's say that you have some life circumstances that cause your lifestyle to change. And you've decided that because of those lifestyle changes, you can no longer keep the dog. It could be anything, like all of us, lots of us. I've been through huge challenges at some points in my life, and they're really difficult to go through. I get it, and I have no judgment about that when and if someone needs to return a dog to me because they are going through a life challenge. I get it. There is nowhere in my agreement, there is nowhere in my contract, there is nowhere that I've ever stated that if you are returning a dog to me because you had a lifestyle change, there's no place that I have ever written or stated, there's no agreement that I've ever made that I will automatically give the dog back to someone at some point in the future. So if you're returning a dog to me because you've had a lifestyle change, maybe a housing issue or a financial issue or a health issue, I'm not in a position to say that I would promise to hold the dog for you or keep the dog waiting for you to resolve your issues. So I'm not in a position to say that I would automatically return the dog to you. That is not a fair expectation of me or of the dog, and it would be determined on a case-by-case basis, but that determination would be made before you returned the dog to me. If for some reason you were expecting me to then return the dog to you after the dog or the situation was resolved, that would need to be made very clear to me before returning the dog to me. So in other words, if you've got a financial issue going on in your life and you're not able to afford to take care of your dog, and then a week later you want the dog back after I've had the dog for a week and everything, the dog is now back in my possession and I now own the dog, I don't owe you an automatic de facto return of the dog. There is also nowhere in any contract or any agreement or any conversation that I have had with anyone that says that I will then refund 100% of the original purchase price of the dog. In fact, I have lots of things that have been said here in the past. I have a video specifically about what happens if you are in a situation where you recognize that your dog might outlive you. I have had more than several people call me to say, hey, I'm in my 70s or somewhere around that age range, and I would really like to have a dog. But the likelihood is that I will outlive the dog. How could we handle that? So they set it up with me up front. And what we do is we say that when you pass or when you're no longer able to care for the dog may be returned back to me, but your estate does not get a refund for the original price of the dog when you return the dog back to me. And I ask that in those situations, I be made aware up front. What is in the will? What is in the trust? So that there is enough money set aside to get the dog back to me if you're using a flight nanny. In several instances where this is set up, people have made arrangements for flight transportation or flight nanny services. My husband might even be willing to go get the dog under the flight nanny arrangement. And then there's also funds set aside to care for the dog for the rest of its life. I breed dogs for families, for people who really want a family member. They want a beloved, cherished family member. And when we're in a situation where we have to make the decision that we can no longer keep a dog, for whatever reason it is extremely hard. It is extremely painful. It's hard for everybody involved, including the breeder, including the community around that dog who now misses the dog. I don't know that there are standard practices about how dog breeders approach when a family needs to return a dog. And I think that these are dealt with on a case-by-case basis. And so if you are looking at getting a dog, please make sure that you can do everything you need to take care of that dog, and that you have enough funds and you have a home environment that's appropriate for the dog. Please put all those pieces in place before you get a dog. One of the biggest challenges that I've seen, I mentioned in another video recently, is when one person in a family wants a dog, or when a group of people in a family want a dog and someone else doesn't want a dog. That can cause a tremendous amount of tension, problems in a family system, in a community around the dog. And that's really hard for everybody. It is excruciatingly painful for everybody involved in it, and for the dog, and for the family, and for the breeder when the dog comes back. But I don't know any breeder that is going to say, if that's the circumstance, if that's what's going on around the dog, that when you change your mind and you now want the dog back, or when one member of the family system now changes their mind and wants the dog back, that there's an automatic, oh, sure, take the dog back. I really struggle with that. And I would be curious to know, those of you who are watching this video, put your comments or your thoughts about this. I recently watched a video of another dog breeder. She breeds cane corsos, and she did a video on this topic about how to handle it when a family has decided to return a dog, and what are reasonable expectations in those circumstances. So if it's one thing if the family had the dog for 2 days, 3 days, right, before those vet checks. It's another thing if the family had the dog for months or longer and is now going through some sort of personal thing or financial thing that causes them to not be able to keep the dog. But I would welcome your thoughts about this. So as a dog breeder, this is a very important topic to me. And you can imagine that I've had my puppy agreements, my genetic health agreement, I've had my breeding agreements all reviewed by attorneys who specialize in this area. And I do everything I can to stay up to date with the laws in Pennsylvania so that I'm doing the right thing. I think the other thing that is very important to just verbalize here, I live in a home that has a community around it. We have video surveillance. We have videos on our house, on our backyard, on our front yard. I would never want to be in a situation where I was needing to be insecure about. But if somebody's saying that they're coming to get a dog, or making threatening remarks about taking a dog back, I am in a position to stand up for myself and to seek out police support and help if needed. And I am prepared for that. Whew! You can imagine this is a difficult topic for everybody involved. And I thank you for your patience in getting through this video with me and helping me think out some of the challenges that come with working with people who have purchased a puppy or purchased a dog and are in life circumstances where they need to review or revisit the 10-year genetic health guarantee or the puppy agreement, or what are some of the standard practices in working with and creating relationships with dog breeders. Again, please put your comments below. Would love to hear your thoughts and insights. If you appreciate the content that I am sharing on my channel, please give it a thumbs up, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.